Love and Other Paradoxes is a time travel rom-com. It's about Joe, who is an undergraduate at Cambridge University, and he has big dreams. He wants to be a famous poet. And unbeknownst to him, his dreams are going to come true in the future. He's going to be a really big deal, to the point where there is a time traveling tour that comes back to see him before he was famous. He finds this out when he bumps into a time traveler from this tour. Her name is Essie, and she actually has zero interest in Joe or his poetry. She's just using the tour as a way to get back into the past to fix something that's gone wrong in her own life. So Joe finds out from what Essie accidentally tells him, that his fame is going to be in a big part down to his muse, Diana, who he hasn't met yet, but he's going to write these beautiful love poems about her. And she's going to become a famous actress, which is obviously going to help raise his profile. So cue shenanigans when he meets Diana in the present and things start to go off the rails, at which point he makes a deal with Essie to help her out if she'll help him try and woo his future love. But he finds that he's starting to fall for Essie instead. So it's kind of time travel, love triangle, rom-com, all in this kind of academic setting. I mean, in an ideal world, I would have planned it all up front and then written it according to this beautiful structured plan. But I wrote the first draft, I think when I was 23, and it was only like the second book I'd ever finished, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was full of ideas, but had absolutely no idea how to actually structure a novel. So yeah, as a result, there was a lot of rewriting from scratch. There was a lot of planning after the fact and then redoing. But yeah, time travel, I sometimes would joke that I wish I could time travel to the past and tell myself not to write a time travel book, because it was hard. Like, it was really hard. So I think this depends a lot on genre, right? So if you're writing, so with Meet Me in Another Life, that's a book that I wouldn't call a romance. It's more of a kind of character study slash mystery slash science fiction book. So in that case, you do want to surprise the reader. You do want them not to know exactly where it's going. The difference with Love and Other Paradoxes is structurally it's very much a romance, and romances are not meant to be surprising. I would argue, in terms of the plot beats and who's going to get together at the end. Like, you should know that from the first time these two characters meet. Otherwise, the writer hasn't kind of done their job. The fun in a romance and the surprise in a romance is seeing how these two characters are going to get together and what obstacles are going to come up along the way, how everything's going to get worse before it gets better. So I don't know, I just find that in different genres, there's very different things you're trying to do to keep the reader interested. And in a romance, I think what you're trying to do is get people invested in these specific characters, so that even if it's predictable, even if they know from the start where it's going to end, they will enjoy the journey so much that they won't mind. The obvious thing when you've got someone who's trying to, coach someone into being a more attractive version of themselves is you can have a makeover scene. So you can have all the fun of kind of, in this case, Essie poking fun at Joe for his dress sense, but also hints that she's kind of attracted to him, and, even more so when she's done her makeover and that kind of thing. And the kind of giving of romantic advice in a way that's full of tension when you know that the two characters who are talking are kind of into each other. I really enjoyed that, because it's a case where the reader gets to know more than the characters about what's really going on, because the characters are deeply in denial, but the reader knows the score and gets to kind of be above the characters in that sense and enjoying those interactions on a different level. His dialogue, yeah. I just love it, especially when you have characters that just seem to talk to you and you don't feel like you're actually doing any work. You're just like, oh, that's what they said. Okay. And especially with some characters like Rob, who's a side character, who's Joe's best friend. His dialogue just writes itself. I swear. I don't do any of that. He just kind of appears, to the point where during edits, at one point, my editor said, look, we love Rob, but I think, how did she put it so diplomatically? Could you use him more strategically? She said, which was, cut back his dialogue by about 50%. And yeah, so I did that. And then he's now much more of a side character, but still a lot of fun.